Hi, I'm Stuart. Welcome to my YouTube channel, or welcome back. Thanks for viewing my video. In this video, I do the trick or treat tag. I watched a video by Leslie at Bookers and Purrs where she did this tag. Leslie said anyone watching her video should consider themselves tagged. Pat at Bookchat with Pat 8668 did this tag, and she tagged me in her video. Suey at Suey's Book Banter did this tag. She said that anyone viewing her video should consider themselves tagged. I repeat what they said to properly credit the creators of this tag. The tag creators are Heather at Heather Reads and Meg at Books Off the Beaten Path. There are two prompts in this tag. The first prompt is tricks. Pick 5 books which you have read that did not turn out to be what you hoped for, like getting candy, but it's not the kind you like. Tell us the reason this book didn't work for you. The first book is Midnight Sun by Stephanie Meyer. I love the Twilight books. I love the Twilight movies. I would never claim the books are all that well written, but I did love the characters and I love the plots. Midnight Sun is a retelling of the original Twilight book from Edward's perspective. First problem I have with the book is that you're in Edward's brain, and Edward's a very self-loathing character. Second was that there was just way too much dialogue. And the third is the book is way too long at 662 pages. It could have been cut down by 200-300 pages. So based upon me loving the Twilight books, starting with the original Twilight book upon which Midnight Sun is based, I was very disappointed in this book by comparison. One thing I will say, though, is that reading this book would have been a little different if you weren't at all familiar with the Twilight universe, because in that case, you would have really found Edward menacing. But having read the Twilight book, which probably 99.9% of the people who read Midnight Sun have already done, they know how it's going to turn out. The second book is From the Earth to the Moon by Jules Verne. In this book, people are trying to build a very long cannon which will shoot a projectile with people in it to the moon. It is set in the mid-1800s, and the book reads like a kind of a history/instruction manual about building this cannon and projectile, which is really quite boring. And then the end of the book, this is a bit of a spoiler, I admit, but well, this is a spoiler because I'm going to say what happens in the book, but I have to, because this was extra disappointing. After all that, the projectile misses the surface of the moon. So there's no payoff for the boring lead up to the end. I was especially upset reading this book because I did love some Jules Verne books that I read in my youth. The third book is A Stranger by Albert Camus. The protagonist in this book is a man who kind of glides through life. He doesn't really think too deeply about the things he does. His co-workers and friends like him. Early on, he becomes friends with an unsavory character, and he helps him do something that I found very upsetting, and then he helps him cover up this crime. And that really disturbed me, and from then on, I didn't like the character, and I didn't particularly like the book. I did read it. I did complete it, but it was very disappointing for me for that reason. The fourth book is The Pairing by Casey McQuiston. There was just too much talk about gourmet food and fine wine in this book for my taste. I'm a pedestrian eater, and I don't really drink at all anymore, but if I would drink, the only thing I would drink was dry white wine. I have no knowledge of fine wine. The book wasn't a bad book. I wasn't really upset that I read it. It's just that I really love Casey McQuiston's I Kissed Shara Wheeler. So this book was a little disappointing by comparison, although I probably shouldn't compare them because I Kissed Shara Wheeler was a YA book and The Pairing was an adult book. The fifth book is Normal People by Sally Rooney. In this book, there is a long-term relationship between Connell and Marianne. A lot of people found their relationship, a lot of readers considered their relationship a great romance. I found it very toxic. This book is much lauded, so I was disappointed that I didn't really like it all that much. I was glad I read it, but I didn't get out of it what a lot of people got out of it. The second prompt is treats. Pick 5 books you have read that were the best reading experiences you've had. Really can't narrow it down remotely to 5, but I did pick 5 books which were great reading experiences for me. The first is going way back. It's The Stand by Stephen King. I read both the shorter version, which was 700 pages, not particularly short, and the longer one, which was around 1,200 pages. I just think it's a great, well, for the first half of the book is, I guess you'd consider an apocalyptic novel. A virus escapes a testing facility that the U.S. government's running. Basically decimates the world's population. Percentage-wise, there's not that many survivors. That's like the first half of the book, how they cope, how they band together. The second half of the book is a battle between good and evil. And the fact that Stephen King can maintain your interest for 1,200 pages is impressive. The second book is Witchling by Yasmin Galenorn. This book is a great read for me because it's the first book in the Sisters of the Otherworld series that ended up being 21 books with some novellas and short stories. In addition to that, there are 3 sisters. They are part fae, part human. One is a witch, one is a shapeshifter, and one is a vampire. And I've never read a series that long, and yet when it ended, I still didn't want it to end. Just a great series, and Witchling was the first book of the series. The third book is The Vampire Lestat by Anne Rice. This is the first Anne Rice book I read. The natural order to read the Vampire Chronicles books would be Interview with the Vampire, then The Vampire Lestat, and then onwards. Because I read them out of order, my view of Lestat was that which was put forth in The Vampire Lestat, which was Lestat telling his own story, whereas Interview with the Vampire was Louis telling his own story, which also involved a lot Lestat. So that to color my view of Lestat, reading the Vampire Lestat first, and 2-3 years ago I reread The Vampire Lestat, and I loved it just as much on a reread. The fourth book is Natural Beauty by Ling Ling Wang. The heroine in this book is a Asian American. Her parents were immigrants. She was bullied badly as a youth, something I can identify with. And early in the book, she becomes an employee of a rather mysterious beauty lifestyle company they do a lot of strange stuff. And the book talks a little bit about what it's like being a Asian American, what it's like trying to conform to Western beauty standards and the lengths some people would go to do so. There is body horror. It's just a book that I absolutely love. Very tense. The fifth book is The Honeys by Ryan LaSala. The hero of the book is a trans boy. His mother is a New York State senator. He and his sister regularly went to a summer camp in upstate New York, but something really bad happened to the hero a few years back, so he stopped going. His sister continued going, but she ended up dying, and so he goes back to the camp to try to figure things out. There is some horrendous bullying directed his way because he's a trans boy. There is some great horror. There is some weird stuff. The book has been compared in some ways to Bunny by Mona Awad. Just a book that I really loved. Great horror, weird stuff. Commentary too on that often the most horrific things that can happen to a person are not perpetrated by supernatural beings. They're perpetrated by our fellow humans. Next, I'm going to tag people. First, I tag anyone who's viewing this video. If you'd like to do this tag, please do so. I know we're not too far away from Halloween, but I suggest you don't hold yourself to that. I don't hold myself to those deadlines myself. For some of us, spooky season is all year round anyway. I'm also going to tag a specific group of people in the description of my video. Just if you want to do it, if you want to do a video of your own, answer either prompts. Doesn't have to be 5 books either. Any books you think about in my comments or whatever, please do so.